Okay. Good morning and welcome. I am Teresa Etienne Jefferson, a proud member of the Lincoln University class of 1983 and program chair. We are excited to have you with us this Saturday morning when you could have been anywhere else. On behalf of the Alumni Association of Lincoln University, it is my honor to welcome you to today's women's event. Two powerful conversations centered on AI in education and HBCU accreditation. Today, we gather at a critical moment where innovation is moving faster than ever, where equity must remain our compass, and where accountability is not optional but essential. As women, as leaders, and as advocates for education, we understand that the future is not something we wait for, it is something we shape. Artificial intelligence is redefining how students learn, how institutions operate, and how opportunity is distributed. At the same time, accreditation continues to define the standards, credibility, and sustainability of our beloved HBCUs. These are not separate conversations, they are deeply connected. The questions before us is not simply what is changing, but how we ensure that change works for us. How do we protect the legacy of our institutions while embracing the tools of tomorrow? How do we ensure that innovation does not outpace inclusion? And how do we hold systems accountable while preparing the next generation to lead within them? Today's dialogue is designed to challenge, inform, and empower. We are grateful to our panelists, women of insight, experience, and courage, who will guide us through these important discussions. And we thank each of you for showing up, for leaning in, and for being part of a community that believes in progress with purpose. Let this be more than a conversation. Let it be a call to action. Welcome, and let's begin. I now introduce you to our program host, Ephraim J. Burgess from the Lincoln University class of 2016.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ms. Etienne. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. On behalf of the Lincoln University Alumni Association Programming Committee, I'm honored to serve as your moderator for today's timely and important discussion, innovation, equity, and accountability in education. Again, my name is Ephraim Burgess, hailing from Lincoln University's class of 2016. I'm born and raised here in Baltimore, Maryland, and it's truly a privilege to guide this conversation as we explore two critical areas shaping education today. The first topic being AI in education, the evolution, and HBCU accreditation issues of today. These topics are not only relevant, but essential as we collectively navigate how technology, policy, and institutional integrity impact the future of learning, especially within our HBCU communities. Today's dialogue is designed to inform, challenge, and inspire us all to think critically about how we can advance equitable, innovative, and accountable educational systems. I encourage everyone to stay engaged, reflect on what you hear, and think about how these insights can be applied within your own spaces and spheres of influence. So let's get started with our first topic, AI in education, the evolution, introducing our panelists, Dr. Marcia Koger from the Seed School, Miss Camille Young from Camille Young and Associates, Dr. Carmen Lassane representing Lincoln University, Dr. Valerie C. Riggs representing Morgan State University, and Miss Diane Pavich Hinton. With introductions, I want to introduce Dr. Marcia Koger first to speak a little bit about herself.
Sure. Good. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here. I've just so glad that we're having this topic and conversation about AI. I'm basically a nonprofit executive. I'm a grant strategist, and I've been in education for more than 20 years. I currently work for the Seed School of Maryland. I oversee the private government and as well as our federal grants, Title I grants. I've raised millions of dollars for institutions, I've worked at the Seed School, Baltimore Design School, the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship. I've served in government as a special assistant to the House Majority Whip in the House, the Maryland House of Delegates. I worked on legislation and education policy initiative. I was an early adopter of AI, where I now specialize in AI in education, in nonprofit strategy, and civic engagement. I've studied this area extensively and widely. I'm very an expert on ChatGPT, Claude, Replit, as well as Suno. And also I apply AI. I've been applying AI as well to my political work. I have a doctorate in higher education from Morgan, a master's degree from the University of Baltimore, and a bachelor's in English literature from Swarthmore College. So welcome. Thank you. Thanks. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Koger. Next, in our introduction of panelists, I would like to introduce Miss Camille Young from Camille Young and Associates.
I'm not sure I want to follow Dr. Coker. But thank you. Thank you for having me. Camille Young, founder of Camille Young and Associates. I've basically spent the better part of my career recognizing patterns. I'm an HBCU grad, Howard University, electrical engineering, got my MBA at NYU Stern, concentration in finance and IT. So much of what Dr. Koger has focused on are things that I am also passionate about. I basically, through pattern recognition, help organizations navigate transformation, especially when technology changes how work actually happens. This is where I've honed in over the last few years, and I'm excited to join this conversation about how education can actually prepare our students to be ready for this, not just in the workforce, but as entrepreneurs.
Thank you. Thank you so much again, Ms. Young, for sharing so much of your expertise and being able to participate in our panel on today. Next in our introduction, representing the Lincoln University, 1854, Dr. Carmen Lassane.
Good morning. I'm ecstatic to be here. My name is Dr. Carmen Lassane. I come to you as a scholar practitioner straddling both worlds. I've been blessed to have a career in K-12 for more than 2.5 decades, serving as a teacher, middle school counselor, building administrator, district level administrator, and consultant. I was humbled to be able to return to the Lincoln University as a faculty member in the education department. We are located at 3020 Market Street in Philadelphia, close to 30th Street Station. And in that program, I was able to supervise student teachers and teach in or across the 3 of our programs, which is educational leadership, special education, and early child education. I'm excited to enter this conversation and lend to it the experience I have. And I am a proud alumna of the university class of 2000 and the mother of a proud alumna class of 23. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Such a beautiful legacy that you've paved the way for so many of us to participate in from our dear old Orange and Blue. Thank you so much, Dr. Lassane. Next in our introductions, I would like to introduce from the Morgan State University, Dr. Valerie C. Riggs.
Good morning, everybody. I am Dr. Valerie Riggs. I am from Maryland, a Maryland native. I am currently an assistant professor in teacher education and professional development at Morgan State University. Go Bears. I'm also an alumni there. I did my doctorate there, and I have a master's degree in education from UMBC and a master's degree in instructional design from Towson and a bachelor's degree from University of Maryland College Park. So I've been to all these Maryland schools, and I love all things Maryland. My major focus has always been on research and instructional design and online learning and most things technology. And within the past several years, I have gone into this world of AI. I'm a member of the President's Committee on the Strategic Use of AI for the entire university, where we help to meet with faculty and develop policies and talk about where we need to go next with using AI at our HBCU. My research focuses on AI in education, teacher professional development, and equity in using AI in under-resourced schools. I have created an AI for education course in our department, which students take, which our pre-service teachers take to understand what tools that they can use in the classroom. And I also do professional development for educators in through our Seamless program, which is a Center for AI and ML language. And we often invite educators throughout the community to come, and I focus on AI literacy. I'm a published researcher on AI readiness and teacher perceptions in K-12 classrooms, and I'm also a faculty mentor. Lastly, I'm a Fulbright specialist where I am focusing on AI literacy. I'll be leaving soon to speak to faculty in Equatorial Guinea. There is a university there, and we'll be discussing how they can strategize with using AI at that university and in different contexts. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Riggs. We really appreciate your participation in this panel. Last but not least, we have Ms. Diane Pavich Hinton representing the Vista Data Company.
Thank you. And as you can tell, we have a tremendous panel here of wealth and knowledge of women. I'm Diane Pavich Hinton. I'm grateful to be here. I'm representing Vista Data today. As an executive consultant in AI talent systems, I support organizations and regions in navigating workforce transformation by designing AI-ready training models, modernizing curriculum from the bachelor's and master's degree, and strengthening the infrastructure that produces skilled talent at scale. I am committed to creating equitable, future-ready pathways that expand across high-demand careers and strengthen regional competitiveness. I've worked in many states, from Virginia to DC to Maryland to the Mid-South, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Tennessee. And so I am a Maryland native and a University of Baltimore graduate with a master's in public administration. Grateful to be here. This is a wonderful opportunity to talk candidly about what it takes to integrate AI responsibly, and especially for HBCUs who sit at the center of talent development and community impact.
Thank you so much to our panelists. If everyone could go into their React settings and throw a clap for me, I would truly appreciate that for our panelists that have shared a little bit about themselves. But we're going to move forward in conversation one, AI and education. And in this portion of our conversation, I'll break these questions down to panelists that have particular expertise, and they'll share their excellence insight from their careers and experience that we've heard thus far. So at this time, I would like to move forward with question number one. What are the biggest opportunities AI creates for improving student learning? And I would like for Ms. Camille Young, if she could start us off with an experience or a story in which she can relate to expound upon this particular question. You're on mute, Miss Young. You're on mute. Sorry. You're on mute.
Oh, okay.
Perfect. We can hear you now.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. No, I'm excited to talk about this topic because I do believe AI presents a tremendous amount of opportunity for everyone, actually. And as far as the story, early in my career, I worked on a global operational strategy for a major IT company that was looking to offshore. And it involved, like I said, shifting operational functions across international teams, which is a kind way of saying offshoring. And what stood out to me during this process wasn't really just that the technology or the logistics. It was more how much the nature of work changed for the people involved. And, this is where tasks were once routine began to evolve into a different approach, sometimes more automated, sometimes more manual, but done faster. People who thrive were now needing to adapt, think across different systems, understand how to work internationally, and understand how work was connected to larger organizations. And I give that context because I see something very similar happening with AI today. And it's been happening for a while, and I'm glad we're taking note now and positioning ourselves to take advantage of it. AI will automate and is automating certain tasks. Um, it will also elevate the importance of judgment and collaboration and systems thinking, much like what I saw in this offshoring initiative that I helped develop. And that's why education, this topic specifically, has such an important role right now in preparing students not just to use AI, but to understand how it reshapes the environments that they're going to work in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Young. I would like to bring Dr. Koger in on this conversation in addition to the information that you've shared with us thus far.
Sure. Well, I know at the Seed School of Maryland, part of this discussion is really considering and talking about and thinking about how do we prepare our students for the workforce. And at the Seed School of Maryland, we are just in the beginning stages of policy development and developing a policy to really talk about this. And it was interesting too, because we did survey before, do an assessment before anything. We surveyed all of our students. We had about 91 students who participated and gave us some feedback. We also surveyed the leadership team as well as all the teachers to see how they felt about AI. And it was interesting because half of the teachers felt like just ban it. We shouldn't even talk about it at all because they were concerned about ethical issues, students copying and pasting their papers. And then the other half of the teachers were really interested in thinking about using it as a tool. So we're in the process right now of really trying to figure this out. And one thing I know that we're noticing too, there seems to be a gap. There's a gap with kind of teachers being prepared to teach this and where teachers are with AI period and feeling comfortable. And then the students, of course, are very knowledgeable about AI. So this is a statewide trend, statewide thing, and everyone's really just trying to figure this all out and talk about it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Koger, for your shared remarks. And one thing that stands out to me before we move on to our second question is a word of innovation. It sounds like AI has spawned an innovative thought and innovative perspective for all of us to participate in, which leads me to question number 2. How can AI personalize learning for students with different needs and learning styles? Dr. Valerie Riggs, could you please expound upon this particular question with your expertise?
Sure, I would be excited to do that. One of the ways that I love teaching teachers how to work with AI and their students is talking about scaffolding and being able to break down large concepts into smaller bite-sized pieces. And so we've been doing this for years, and now we have this tool. We have different GPTs or ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity where we can break the information down into smaller contents. We can do it, or we can teach the children how to do it, depending on their age level, and be able to understand concepts a little bit more independently. We can also be able to have better feedback, depending on how we teach students to prompt and enter in their information, and then look for feedback and ask critical questions and ask how they can perform better. We can also support IEP and students and multiple language learner students very quickly through this. With prior to, and we do still use these programs. There are many other programs that you can implement into your day, such as Google Translate and other language programs if it's for multilingual learners. However, but you could quickly go into an AI session and have something translated, or if a student has a different word for the word that they're using, they can have a shorter or a smaller meaning where they can understand in that way. One of the other things that I have found interesting is a project that I'm working on. We received a grant, and we're working with a school in New Orleans. And I'm sure everyone is used to standard state testing, and then additional computerized testing that is in the classroom. I'm sorry, computerized learning and computerized tutoring support that is in the classroom, where students may be pulled out, they get to take a pretest, you know where their low skills are, and they are delivered preset questions. It checks the answers, and it just says right or wrong and provides like this generic type feedback. So now that we have AI, there's several companies. One of them is Amira that we've been working with in New Orleans, and their personalized tutoring software actually listens to the children. So it listens to the students read the content, and they read aloud in real time, and then it can identify the specific gaps, whether it's coding or fluency, and then provides immediate support. So it functions like a live responsive tutor versus giving preset generic feedback. So in general, there's so much that we can do, and that's just a little bit.
Dr. Riggs, in your sharing, I thought to ask Dr. Lassane briefly about teacher preparation programs, and that's somewhat of what you kind of went into for the student side of those things. Dr. Lassane, can you expound upon your experience possibly working with teacher preparation tools that come from AI?
Sure. So at Lincoln, similarly to the K-12 system, you have students at different levels and different comfortability with the with AI technology. So just exposing it to them, encouraging them to use it themselves and to research and find more about it, and to tell them stories about the things that are happening in the K-12 system. And so as Dr. Riggs shared, the predictive analytics that are available for teachers to program effectively for their students. Back in the day, we had to do all that by hand and calculate and score. AI does that very quickly, very efficiently, and pinpoints the need for students and where they can be supported. In addition, the gathering of resources specific to the need or the topic that students are learning about or researching becomes critical. And also learning the direct supports that are available to teachers who are students who are preparing to be teachers and their students themselves.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lassane. I really appreciate your addition to this conversation. We're going to move our conversation right along with our question number 3. How can educators teach students to critically evaluate information generated by AI? And I'll ask that question one more time. How can educators teach students to critically evaluate information generated by AI? Ms. Pavich, can you please expound upon this question for us?
Sure, thank you. And that's a great question. How can educators or trainers teach students to critically evaluate AI-generated information? These are a lot of the questions and skills employers are looking for. How do we critically evaluate workforce competency AI? But first and foremost, we need to start with foundational AI literacy. We really need to teach students not just how to use AI, but how to question it. And as you all know, and as all of you sit in your classrooms, we think about it and we know that today students don't need to be data scientists, but they do need a basic understanding of what is an AI tool. How do we generate predictions based on the patterns, that it's really not the truth, it's all on patterns? How can AI be confidently wrong, and how to be able to critically analyze that? AI reflects the data it was trained on, including biases. And so by creating a foundation that helps students approach AI outputs with a healthy type of skepticism, as I say, rather than just a blind trust, we can do that as educators. And one of the ways Vista Data does that connection is in partnership with the University of Memphis, Lane College, and other colleges, we begin our training and we begin every learner with the experience and the same grounding. Before even students touch a model or touch any of the tools, they learn about how AI works, why it makes mistakes, what responsible use looks like in academic and workplace settings, because some of our students are also employees, right, from industry, and not just unemployed or underemployed or new students. We want to teach students how to integrate AI like any other source. Someone earlier, one of my colleagues here said, a simple, repeatable framework. They mentioned in terms of how to look at AI like other sources, reliable sources. AI has to be looked at as a repeatable framework, helping students build habits of the mind. So one example that we use with Vista Data is called SOURCE, the acronym SOURCE, SOURCE. Source, where might this information have come from, we ask them. Objectivity, what biases could be present? And then you, up to date. Is the information correct? Because you need the human in the loop. So we teach these students and these learners and these employees how to really look for this. And then also, does it actually answer the question? Is the information relevant? And then another area is, can it be verified with credible sources, right? As you all created your doctoral theses, right? You had to have credible sources. And within the last 5 years, sometimes, was it peer reviewed? And so again, we're teaching them maybe not to write their doctoral, but also can it be verified with credible resources? And then evidence. Does AI provide citations or just confident statements? So again, this turns AI evaluation not into just a skill and not a guessing game, but with Vista Data, we embed and work with our colleges and our faculty and our university, higher ed, and K through 12, this type of framework, this model called Source that directly can be embedded and be utilized and leveraged with any of the AI tools to help students evaluate AI outputs in writing, research, applied analytics, or within their own work environment. So again, students need to build analytical muscles when they compare AI generated responses with reputable sources. I'm sure you would all agree if you'll raise your hands on that. Identify inaccuracies, missing content, and biased language. And we also need them to be able to discuss why the AI may have made those errors, because this is how we're going to help them develop that muscle, that skill set that employers are looking for. And what this does through Vista's connection with the University of Memphis partnership is we help learners really complete a structured AI versus human source lab that they learn to analyze discrepancies, trace errors, practice verification, and at the same time are gaining a skill set that employers are looking for, but not just look for, expect now, right? So what are we asking them to do? We're requiring them to show reasoning. We're encouraging our students to ask AI to explain how it arrived at that answer. We're requesting step-by-step reasoning from the student. And what this does is shifts from that passive consumer to achieve evaluators. So again, I must say, Vista Data and the University of Memphis partnership, when we work with our students, we really provide real-world examples of AI failures, and we discuss these openly, reinforcing critical evaluation. And we really look at how the curriculum includes case studies, whether it's for manufacturing, healthcare, workforce systems, the public sector. So we're really rounding our student to give them information that is concrete and that are examples that what could go wrong and how to mitigate it and digital literacy. I get too excited about this topic across every subject. So again, it can fit into a nice AI evaluation of this framework into English, history, science, engineering, technology, micro-credentials, short-term credentials, AI literacy, as you all know, and you know it better than I do, is now a core academic competency. At Vista Data, our model with the University of Memphis and our other colleges in the Mid-South are intentional across disciplinary, each one. We support faculty across departments and not just in computer science technology, so students encounter responsible AI practices in multiple contexts. So again, I leave you with, students watch what teachers do.
Thank
So
you
when
so much, Diane. We really appreciate you for sharing
you're
on
welcome.
3. We're going to press our conversation forward in the topics of AI and education. Question number 4. What professional development do teachers need to integrate AI effectively into instruction? Dr. Carmen, can you spark us off with insight to your experience with this particular question here?
Sure. As a colleague shared previously, the teachers and professors are coming in at various stages of understanding and comfort levels. So I think starting with the foundation. What is AI? How does it work? How can it help you support your students is critical. I think also exploring sort of prompt engineering and tool exploration. So, what are the different platforms out there? How can you use them? And how does the framing of your prompt impact what output you get? And exploring the different tools, you can create images, you can input specific content so that your answers only come from that content. An example in the K-12 world is um, right now students are about to enter testing in Pennsylvania. So there's PSSAs and Keystones coming up. So the administrators in that building can literally take the program, the guidelines that the state has provided them, input it into a particular AI program and ask questions. So how long do we have to hold the materials? And based on the guide that they input, will give them the answer rather than having to flip through, the hundreds of pages in the guide. And then the last thing I'll say about PD, there's much to say about it, is the exploration of ethics and privacy. What can we do? What can we not do? What challenges or ethics come up as a result of um, the use of AI. So several places to go. That's just the tip of the iceberg. But I think foundations, fundamentals, prompts, tools, and ethics is a great place to start.
Dr. Riggs, would you like to add on to this conversation as well?
Yeah, sure. So I published a study in the journal Research Initiatives in 2025, and it was titled Teachers' Perceptions and Readiness for AI Integration in Under-Resourced K-12 Classrooms. So in this study, teachers participated in a series of summer professional development workshops that dealt with ethics, AI literacy, basic use of AI tools, and so forth. So I looked at 20 teachers in kind of a mixed methods design, and they assessed them before and after attending the workshop. So the findings indicated that targeted professional development increased teacher confidence in their willingness to actually integrate AI in their classroom. Many teachers were hesitant. They were familiar with, just ChatGPT, but they left the different workshops with clearer tools and clearer ways in which that they could implement it. So targeted professional development, teachers wanted hands-on training and hands-on practice of how they could actually apply it directly to whatever it was that they were teaching, so that they don't have to spend so much time figuring it out on their own. Teachers raised ethical concerns. They wanted to understand what was allowable in their school district as it related to data privacy and algorithms and collecting and bias and collecting data from students and things like that. What were they really allowed to do? Many districts still do not have strong AI policies. So they wanted to have ethics and the discussion of the district's points and allowabilities for ethics in their professional development. And finally, they wanted sustained support throughout the school year, throughout their time teaching. So these one and done workshops, those weren't going to cut it. They wanted it to be ongoing. They wanted it to be collaborative, hands-on, and accessible, and accessible within their building as well.
Thank you so much, Dr. Riggs and Dr. Lassane, for your insight, perspective, and wealth of knowledge on question number 4. I'm going to move swiftly to question number 5. How can schools prepare students for careers in an AI-driven workforce? Now, I believe we covered a lot of this question in the conversation of your experiences. So, really quickly, I'm going to ask Miss Young if she can expound her experience because we haven't heard from her in quite a moment during this particular portion of our panel. Miss Young, would you like to open us up with this question?
Unmute. It's actually a great question, and thank you for bringing me into this conversation. I feel that the very first thing I'll say after all of the amazing points that have been made about critical thinking, how teachers can become ready, how students can become ready, it's important to note that critical thinking is durable. Tools are not going to replace it, but what they're going to do is elevate it. And so making sure that we bring our students inside of the technology, that the technology comes into the classroom, that the teachers actually embrace this technology, and it can be a learning process for both teacher and student. Once the students are inside the technology, now we're getting them ready for an AI driven workforce, right? They need to become connected with this technology, and know that it's okay to use it because in the workforce, it is being used at every corner. But what it's not doing, it's not replacing people. And so I'm going to lead with this and then dive into just a little bit because I know we're time crunched, but AI isn't going to replace people. It's going to the people who know how to use AI are going to be the ones who replace the people who don't. So the faster we bring this into the classroom, the faster we make sure the students know that it is okay to use it, but use it responsibly, and we explain to them and teach them and show them what that actually means, they will be ready for the workforce. But I personally feel that we don't want to just prepare our students for careers in an AI driven workforce. We want to actually position them to be able to create another workforce and be entrepreneurs and build and develop and not just look to see who can I work for, but what jobs can I create through my own development using AI. And I don't know if I answered your question directly, but I'm passionate about this particular topic, being both an entrepreneur and someone who's worked in the workforce for quite a while. And I could talk about this one all day. So I'll hand you back the mic.
Young, before we pass the mic over to Dr. Koger about this particular topic, you hit the nail on its head when you spoke about the confidence that students and young people need to have going into AI and going into the workforce. It totally makes a difference. Dr. Koger, can you expound upon this particular question as well?
Sure. Actually, it's one of the resources that are included in the slide. It's a book, The 21 Questions for the 21st Century. One of the things that he really talks about in this book, and I think is really valid and moving forward, is students not only just knowing the technology, but a couple of things, as Miss Young just said too, that one of the things too, we have to get students used to change. That, no longer, sorry you all, but I don't think the students no longer believe in the American dream. That no longer do you get a good education, you get a good job, and you retire. That's no longer the framework. That's not the paradigm that students are living by now. First of all, there are all kinds of options. You can be a content creator. You could do the van life. I mean, there's so many options. So just and that's going to change some mental health or just your thought process. So one of the things to really consider and think about is change. That a student might have one career for 5 years and then upscale and upskill and then have another career. You might be a drone certification. You might in 5 years live on Mars and do drone work. So that's something to really consider and think about too. It's just kind of developing those soft skills again. Communication, students being able to communicate, students to have critical thinking skills, students to be able to be creative, as well as change and critical think is 5 things actually: critical thinking, communication, cooperation, be able to work in a group, and then the last one is change. So really developing too at the same time those soft skills in students. And I believe those are the things that are going to help students stick out, actually, having those strong soft skills along with the AI literacy skills.
Thank you, Dr. Koger. And last in this topic, or in this question of our topic, Miss Diane Pavich, can you please expound upon AI-driven workforce experience as well?
Sure, thank you. So all of my colleagues here touched on targeted training, hands-on education, right? And what employers are looking for. But I think one of the things we've learned, the biggest issues and challenges was really working with higher ed and industry partners to really help learners advance the fastest with hands-on training, real-life experience, when education is directly connected to real industry experience, right? And one of the things we did with faculty in the engineering technology department at the Polytechnic subunit at the University of Memphis in the Mid-South was to really do exactly that with Vista Data and industry and the faculty, take all that knowledge and redevelop and map short courses that tie to Bachelor of Arts in Science in Artificial Intelligence and a Master's of Arts in Artificial Intelligence program. These courses were intentionally designed for non-technical professionals, community college learners, and individuals who are unemployed or underemployed. But most of all, as all of my colleagues here have said, it teaches AI the way employers actually will want them to use it through hands-on projects that automate workflows, analyze data, build AI-powered tools, and really strengthen decision-making that we all continue to talk about in our delivery today, critical thinking. So these aren't just hypothetical exercises. These are really curriculum and program design that are going to provide individuals with skills employers need in various industries such as industry, logistics, manufacturing, healthcare, public service. That is where we need it today. And those are just some of the industries. And so, again, I must say that the biggest thing that we can do to advance individual students and reentry students is really to take a look at how do we advance and modernize our curriculum to the careers, the very same using stackable credentials that really need the skills that employers are seeking today. So again, let's take the accelerated route in high demand roles and take the AI tools that are part of our everyday life now and make these work in analyzing data, automating tasks, improving operation, and supporting better decision-making through our curriculum. Again, thank you, colleagues, and just really everyone gave a great piece of this, but we really need to build on AI-ready pathways.
Thank you so much, Ms. Pavich. I totally agree, which brings us to a more expound portion of what we can do in participating in this AI conversation. How can educators ensure students use AI responsibly and ethically? And I think before we move forward with this particular question, I'm going to pair this question with our closing question of policy frameworks, accreditation readiness, and governance all play a major factor in what it is that we talked about in getting quality information, authentic information, valuable information, and getting our students to critically think as they grow through this particular topic. So I'm going to start off with Dr. Valerie Riggs, and then I'm going to move quickly with Dr. Carmen Lassane, and Dr. Koger, you're going to close us out immediately after that, okay? So you guys can just share the mic as we proceed in closing of this topic.
Okay, thank you so much. I am a fellow with a national initiative called TRAILS, which means Trustworthy AI Law in Society, and it's a multi-institution partnership with University of Maryland, George Washington, Morgan State, and then Cornell University. And we basically, in this consortium, develop national guidance, resource policies, and put partnerships in play that emphasize fairness, transparency, accountability, and human-centered design using AI. So we want to be able to offer these things as a resource to educate. We discussed that teachers can do to make sure that students are using things ethically, are to set expectations, define when AI supports learning and when it actually reduces thinking. We want to work so that students are not replacing their thoughts with the output from AI, but that they're using it to support their learning. We want to teach AI literacy to, we want teachers and students to have understanding with AI literacy, to understand what biases could exist, where it's not accurate, what are the limitations of different tools. We want to design new work and curriculum that embraces accountability. So it requires students to expand their thinking. We can basically get any answer from AI. So we need to ask them and teach them how to learn to think more critically and ask critical questions and create assignments that AI cannot answer. You have to answer from experience. We want to require, we say teachers should require transparency in the classroom. So teaching students how to share the prompts they use, how they revise them, how they come up with their final decisions. And then I don't want to take up too much time, but using the models ethically as teachers and sharing that and demonstrating that, teaching students how to question the outputs that they get, learning how to protect privacy, and then just making sure that students and those who use AI use it as a learning support tool, not a replacement of thinking tool. So that's how what we do with Trails that kind of supports that. Thank you.
So Dr. Riggs covered a lot, and I know she's working on a larger level to provide the guidance to the teachers. I would have to say it's up to the teachers to search that guidance, take that guidance, and implement it in their classroom, right? And so setting clear classroom policies and expectations for students, and again, just emphasizing to students that AI is a tool and it should not be used as a substitute. So again, we focus on the encouraging of critical thinking, using it as a tool. And I would also say just to emphasize again the mandate on transparency and citation. So you can search it, but can you verify it? And can you substantiate the output that you're getting? So those would be the three things that I would say.
Before Dr. Koger, and thank you so much, Dr. Lassane and Dr. Riggs, before Dr. Koger brings in her portion of our conversation to close us out, I would like to add her presentation to the screen as well.
Okay, and you can start with because I feel like I did already go over the survey results.
Yeah.
So I think the policy slide. The other part of this discussion is and we don't have that much time, but really, what is AI? And just, we haven't really defined that, because actually AI, first of all, too, in this topic, really, let's read about it. Let's research. So we really, all of us know what we're talking about. So what is AI? And one of the sources too that I've left is called The History of Artificial Intelligence. But AI actually goes back to the 1800s. And there was machine learning, electric cars are AI. This is just, and even with the onset of ChatGPT, it was a little bit before 2023, but that's when it became really popular because everyone started using that in particular. But AI is not just ChatGPT and these types of platforms. So it's really important that we talk about that and we're knowledgeable about that. But if you notice too, in this whole area, there's no regulatory body with this. So there are a lot of concerns and issues with this, in particular on a policy point of view. There's no regulatory body, there are no real laws. And actually, I have on the slide that you'll get, the laws. There's a federal order that Trump just signed in December of 2025 about AI use, but primarily the usage of AI is now really been designated to the states. And I know I'm in Maryland, so the state of Maryland, actually there's some legislation that's going to be passed, I think this session when it's over in April, that really talks about how each school system have to have an AI policy. So Yeah, okay, that's the Trump. Trump just passed an executive order in Maryland. We've been really tackling it, and there's a possibility, though, that a little bit of this Trump order possibly might preempt what states do. So it's important that we really talk about this from a legal point of view, ethically and morally. And actually, can you show too the slide before the slide before that one, the Trump slide? Possibly. And also because this touches on, again, without the policies, without the laws, um, you see, without the laws, okay, yeah. So for instance, there is right now, and this really relates to, well, okay, it touches on FERPA. We're all familiar with FERPA. It touches on the whole 504 IDEA, as well as there is a law now that says that a child cannot use ChatGPT in a classroom if they're 13 and under without adult present. So even with that, okay, if we do have these laws, then how are we going to enforce the laws, and what are going to be the repercussions of the laws, the consequences of the laws? In Maryland, in particular, there are these really like it's two basic laws, and then it was an executive order, and then the Trump executive order that came out in December. So it's really important that we look at this too. And these things haven't been decided yet. We're in the middle of all these discussions, the ethical ramifications, morally, and also legally. And you're going to get a copy of the PowerPoint, so you'll be able to see the data and the things that I've referenced. And they were the leadership. I talked about our survey. It's interesting too, because the students and the panel have talked about this, but the students, the main thing that they were interested in, that they talked about, we have 400 students. It's a public boarding school. The students stay overnight. So the main thing that the students were interested in is being able to get accurate information from AI. So that whole digital literacy, that digital citizenship is just really important in doing this. And this reminds me too of even with the onset of the internet, it's the same thing. It's the same kind of issues that we need regulation and regulatory bodies to really talk about. And I know for me, I haven't really heard a lot of discussion about this. And I think we need to be talking about this more from those perspectives.
Dr. Koger, I know we're almost at the end of your slideshow.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else that you would like to share that we didn't get a chance previously from your deck? We're going to get that and share it with our participants for today's discussion as well.
Well, just, and I've been looking at some of the questions. There are a lot of resources out there. I know somebody asked a question about their nonprofit leader, and it depends on what state you're in, but I know in particular the Maryland State Department of Education has a whole AI website where they talk about AI, where they're giving examples for, especially for K through 12, there are lessons in there. So we can share that as well. There are lessons in there that teachers can use for AI. They actually have they've started a list of certified or credible platforms that, what's the credible platform to use in a classroom. So there are all types of resources, and each state has their, in particular, their regulatory body for education for their state has probably, I don't know where everyone is, but Florida has one, Hawaii has one. So again, each state is tackling this individually.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Koger, for closing us out. I would like to ask our audience and our participants for a hand clap in the chat for me on your screen. If you go scroll down to that React tab, just put hand claps in the chat for me. Share some love with all of our panelists that have participated and shared the wealth of knowledge and experience that they built and constructed in their careers and their personal endeavors and their entrepreneurship over the years. I would truly like to say thank you as your moderator for today's part one of our discussion. It's been truly a pleasure. At this time, I would like to introduce for our participants some engagement. We have a poll that we would like for you guys to participate. I believe the programming committee has added that to the chat for you guys to see, or they're going to add that briefly to the chat for you guys to see and participate in this poll. I'll share the question as well, and I'll just read it, and then we'll get that on the screen for you guys to see also. What should be the top priority for schools as AI becomes more common in education? Ms. Teresa Etienne has put the participation poll AI conversation in the chat. We're going to allow for you guys a few minutes to go ahead and click that poll, participate, share your insight. And moving forward with the options in the list for our poll discussion question, we have number A as a vote, teacher training and professional development. Letter B, sorry, I said letter A, I mean number A. Letter B, student AI literacy and digital responsibility. Letter C, clear school and district AI policies. Letter D, data privacy and ethical safeguards. Letter E, workforce and career preparation. We'll give you guys a couple of minutes to go ahead and complete this poll, take a sip of water, take a bathroom break for a moment, and then we're going to move forward in the next portion of our discussion. In about 60 seconds, we're going to get started with our second portion of our panel discussion on today. Ms. Etienne, can we move forward in our screen presentation for, okay, thank you so much. For those that have just joined our panel discussion on today, you have now entered into our conversation 2, HBCU accreditation. My name is Ephraim Burgess. I'll be your moderator on today. And in this particular portion of our discussion, we're going to hear from panelist Dr. Carmen Lassane, representing Lincoln University, Dr. Danelle Wallace Alexander, representing Norfolk State University, and Ms. Diane Pavich Hinton of Vista Data. Can we have our next slide, please? Getting started in conversation on today, we're going to open up with question number 1. What are the most common challenges HBCUs face during the accreditation and reaccreditation process? Dr. Danelle Wallace Alexander is going to start us off in conversation, and I can tell you based upon what I've read in her bio, she's a force to be reckoned with. Can you all please welcome Dr. Danelle Wallace Alexander?
Well, thank you, sir, for that introduction. I appreciate that, especially the force to be reckoned with. I'm sure my faculty, as we are entering into the start of our accreditation window. Probably feel like I am a force. I don't know if they want to reckon with me, but I'm definitely the force. Um, so your question about accreditation in HBCUs, I think one of the things is that an HBCU uniquely recognizes the importance of accreditation because most HBCU students rely upon federal assistance to go to school and things of that particular nature. And also, HBCUs are sometimes up against that whole opinion from non-HBCU graduates and attendees about the quality of education. And so accreditation for an HBCU is very critical in being able to, gain that support when graduates leave, that they are definitely highly qualified for whatever field that they're in, and also being able to access those funds that students need because many of the students, particularly at our university, are Pell Grant eligible and rely upon other financial assistance, and they can't receive that if the institution is not accredited. I think one of the benefits about an HBCU being able to show they're accredited, especially the report that comes afterwards, is to show just how successful they are, even though many of our HBCUs have far less resources and far less people to be able to manage the huge task that it takes in order to come through an accreditation cycle and receive a report in which you have minimal to no AFIs or no stipulations. And so to be able to play up that phenomenal feat, I think is a wonderful thing. And I think HBCUs are very poised to be able to do that because they recognize the importance and they appreciate it and are able to bring their faculty into the fold of all hands working together in order to be able to sustain the success that they have built over the years.
Thank you, Dr. Alexander. There is such a pleasure in participating in the uplifting of your university, and that's what's brought me here today to be a participant as well. And in moving our conversation forward, question number two, we're going to continue with you opening us up first for this particular question, Dr. Alexander, and then we're going to have Ms. Pavich answer as well. How does accreditation standards impact the mission and cultural identity of HBCUs?
Having dealt with accreditation for, oh, wow, it's been a few decades now, there have been changes over time. But I think one of the things that I see that is new is the fact that, we are uniquely poised to focus on culture and identity and diversity and equity and all of those words that, as of late, have been called into question about how we use them, what it looks like, or should we be using them? And I think that as we look at those particular standards, we want to make sure we embrace and hold on to our identity. That's the whole point of an HBCU. That's what was built upon. And so I think we do this very delicate dance of being able to meet the standards while also holding on to our identity and showing how important and valuable that is. I think that HBCUs have to stand strong in standing upon their mission and their vision, while also looking and unpacking the standards in a way that enables them to meet the standard without losing themselves. And so I think that is an extremely important part. And that can be done very much so by making sure that the instruments that are being used and the way in which we collect data truly tells our story. It is the gathering of that information to show not only how you tell your story, but meet the standard that is important. And I think that what we have been looking at as we celebrate here, our mission and vision is that we are definitely preparing students to be global citizens. We emphasize the fact that they know their content and are able to apply it. So we really focus in on those key verbs that are within each standard and show how we enable students to do that through our externships and internships and partnerships. And we make sure that we have members of our advisory boards who are from all different sectors that inform us. to keep us in line with what is nationally and internationally identified as being valuable. And then we apply that to the standards. And that is definitely a part of our mission at the university. And if you look across mission statements of HBCUs, that has always been a factor and able to create citizens who will make a global impact.
Thank you so much, Dr. Donnell. Ms. Diane, do you have anything to add to this particular question as well?
Sure. Well, thank you. Dr. Alexander highlighted all of the very critical pieces, right? And I can build a little bit already on what's being said. But when we talk about accreditation and HBCUs, and I have gone through the accreditation process at the University of Memphis, which is a Southern Association of Colleges and Schools Commission, right? We really look at then accreditation really is asking us, what have we already done well, right? It's mission driven, as she mentioned earlier. It's talking about our mission, our identity, and our long-term institutional resilience. And so when we really look at it, as Dr. Alexander mentioned, just to piggyback on that, it's showing accreditation the impact we're already making. And whether that means by demonstrating our retention and completion now that we have been doing very well, and our evidence-based student support, clear learning opportunities, because again, it helps translate by collecting all this data, mission into measurable outcomes and in a language that policymakers and funders recognize. And that's something we really need to look at. Because if we think about it, accreditation can also protect our cultural identity. Accreditors now look at whether our institution's mission and cultural identity really are showing up in student experience. And tell me if I'm wrong on that one. Raise our hands on that, because even students are looking for that in the curriculum, in advising, in our leadership, and in our community partnerships. So again, when we think of HBCUs, we really need to clearly articulate our who we are. And accreditation, we need to look at it as a tool that really protects our identity and not something that's threatening. And lastly, what is really critical, as I know Dr. Alexander touched on financial, I'll touch more on modernization. Accreditors today in our accreditation are asking institutions, how are we preparing our students for tomorrow, for the world they're entering, that labor force? And what that includes now is updating our curriculum to really reflect emerging industry fields, skill sets, integrating digital and AI literacy, and aligning all of our programs with employer needs. And one real critical area that we all know is so crucial today is how do we support faculty with these modern tools? So again, for our HBCUs, this is not a departure from the mission. It's really an extension of it and who we are.
Thank you so much, Ms. Pavich. That was really awesome and profound. Which brings us to question number 3. And before we move into our next question, I want to be a little more personal and direct with Dr. Donnell as I ask this question. And I read in her bio, as a current dean of the School of Education, you previously have some experience working as a mentor to the National Urban Alliance for Effective Education and mentoring school administrators, counselors, and classroom teachers. And in conjunction with this question, I want to hear really a story or an experience directly related to how and in what way does financial constraints affect an institutional's ability to meet accreditation, and how you were able to mentor someone to kind of change that narrative.
So, finances will always be an issue. But one thing that I have learned from HBCUs, I'm at an institution that was established during the Great Depression. And nothing gives you more inspiration than the fact that obviously during a time in which people had little to no money, they found establishing this institution as a beacon of hope was the most important thing. So that is one of the things that I think about when I think of financial constraints. HBCUs have always been able to do a lot with a little. And so when I'm mentoring individuals, I ask them to think not in monetary terms, but what is your human capital? What is the support that you can receive from your partner institutions. And that's another thing I love about HBCUs. An HBCU network is one of the things that I think is important to belong to because you can reach out to I reach out to fellow deans. I can call them up. I can ask for guidance and advice. I can get support for establishing instruments. I can get support for how did you overcome a particular AFI that you may have received on another accreditation visit. And so we overcome those constraints in that particular manner. Also, my experiences with the National Urban Alliance have also taught me a lot about how you tap into your stakeholders. The stakeholders that are supportive, I've never seen anybody more committed to ensuring the success that we experience than the alum of the institution. And if the alum of the institution know or hear that you are in trouble and need help, they will come. But you have to be willing and able and humble enough to say, this is what I need, this is when I need it, and this is why I need it. Being able to show multiple successes over time and how you have overcome, paved the way for donors and your partners in business and other entities to also provide you with support. So overcoming these financial constraints can be done. It takes a lot of diligence and work and focus. But again, that ties back to your previous question about mission and vision. When you are clear about your mission and vision, and you can connect how this accreditation enables you to maintain and reach the goals of that mission, then you are more willing and able to go out and seek the support, and it will come to you, it will find you, and it will help to uplift you and get you where you need to go.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wallace Alexander. You knocked the ball right out of the park with that particular question. And I just want to say I apologize for my lack of proper introduction as it pertains to your bio, and I'll just read briefly some of your wealth of expertise. Dr. Wallace Alexander has 17 years of public school and 16 years of higher education experience. She served as the Associate Dean and the CAEP Coordinator for the School of Education from 2018 to 2020. She has served as a counsel for the Accreditation Education Preparation Site Visitor since 2016, with the appointment to lead site visitor in 2020. She's also the director of the Title III grant-funded Future Teacher Academy from 2015 to 2020. She's focused on diversifying teacher population, providing the support for candidacy and licensure examination, a great expertise and wealth of knowledge in fostering academic achievement and positive social emotional growth for a diverse student population, and she continues to research ways to eliminate barriers for candidates completing education preparation programs at the undergraduate and graduate level. So we want to say thank you again, Dr. Wallace Alexander. Thank you so much. Moving forward in our next question, question number 4. How do enrollment fluctuations influence accreditation reviews? Ms. Diane Pavich, can you please share your insight and experience to this particular question?
Thank you, Ephraim. So, as you all know, when we talk about enrollment today, we're not just talking about headcount, a number. We're really talking about the clearest signals accreditors, and we're getting back to our accreditation, right? Use to understand institution stability. It's the momentum, it's the long-term institutional resilience, because enrollment is shifting across the country, and we've all seen it in our universities, right? And in our colleges. They have served first generation, they have served Pell eligible students, I think Dr. Alexander mentioned. So accreditors are really paying even closer attention now today. So let me really break down what I'm trying to say here about enrollment fluctuations and how it shapes accreditation in 4 practical ways. I think Dr. Alexander touched on financial stability. It's the first signal accreditors look for. When enrollment declines, accreditors immediately ask whether the institution can still sustain itself. They look at whether tuition-driven revenue is still stable, whether reserves are healthy, and whether the budget reflects real enrollment, not aspirational projections, right? So when we think about it, we have to make sure students are protected and the institution can deliver on their promises. And so going outside and really looking at other ways to bring in financial stability is going to be critical through policy, through fundraising, through philanthropic, right? And then the other thing accreditation will look at is how do we connect enrollment to academic quality? If enrollment grows, they really want to see that faculty, advising, and student services are growing with it. But if enrollment declines and goes the other way, as we've seen since COVID, then they look at whether programs are still staffed appropriately and whether quality is being maintained with these fewer resources that all of my colleagues here today spoke about. So the simple question then is, can the institution still deliver a high quality learning experience at its current size? I ask you all of that because it is possible. But again, it's working in collaboration, right? And it's really looking again then, how do we revisit and look at who is our new customer, that student, and what is the success and equity outcomes they need? So if enrollment trends show up in student success metrics, what does that do for us? Creditors then look at that retention, that completion, those equity gaps, and those metrics, especially for the students who are going to rely on institutional support and move into a long-term career pathway, right? If an institution is demonstrating strong intentional support systems, and that's what we really are talking about, it can show stability even during enrollment shifts.
Ms. Diane,
Yeah,
I think you pointed out a great point that I want to bring Dr.
please.
Lane on is that governance piece where you spoke about institutions properly assessing whether or not they have the capacity and ability, which is the baseline for question number 5. What role does institutional governance play in maintaining accreditation? Can you all kind of tag team that particular question for me? Dr. Carmen, would you mind chiming in as well?
Sure. So some of it has been touched upon, but we'll lean into one of the large ones, which is the fiduciary responsibility, right? So how healthy is the are the finances of the institution? And more personally for Lincoln, when you hear or when you get the call from the Lincoln University Alumni Association chapters requesting that you give money, part of that is because there's a look at the number of alumni that give. Yes, the amount matters, but the number also matters. And you look at strategic oversight. What do the strategic plans look like? How are the academic programs being reviewed? Are they being adjusted if the outcomes are not what they want or being, do they need to be adjusted? Um, is the board developing policies that maintain institutional integrity, right? So all of these things are applicable. And believe it or not, the alignment between the board and the president, right? What is that relationship healthy? Are there clearly defined roles between board presidents and the board? And number one is probably mission focus, right? So is the university adhering to the mission? Of the institution and adjusting where needed. So that's what I would say.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lassane, for sharing your insight in addition to that particular question around governance. Our next question is, in what ways do financial constraint, oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong screen, I apologize. How to continue HBCU's competitiveness with AI, curriculum, policies, K through 12 through university levels. How are you using and infusing technology in your curriculum and financial constraints? With this particular question, I would like for our, sorry, my screens are a little out of whack. My apologies. What's going on? Okay. For this particular question and close of our panel discussion number 2, Dr. Wallace Alexander, can you take us away?
So it's funny you should ask this question. This is one of our topics of conversation. And I think that our panelists that talked about AI earlier really touched upon a lot of great things that made me feel great because these are things that we are doing at our institution. When it comes to AI and infusing the technology, obviously we can't have every tool. We can't go to every conference. I mean, we don't have the funding for that. But what we have done is we've empowered our students. We have looked to other institutions and partnered with them about what they are doing in policy. So we have a lot of think tank type things going on. We have the benefit of being led by a provost who clearly understands the importance of AI and is phenomenal in that particular area and has empowered us to generate those things. Our students are leading the way in helping us to refine and improve upon what we've already infused into our curriculum. And by working together with other institutions in partnership, we are able to enhance the curriculum in a way in which we can clearly show our accreditors how we are preparing students for the future. As somebody said earlier, how do you then prepare students to move on? Yes, we're in the School of Education, but they're going to need to know better how to implement these tools within the guidelines of what the state says that they can do, as well as what the federal government says they can do. And I think Dr. Koger, and forgive me if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, I think Dr. Koger really, really drove that home with how we need to look at those things. But we're letting our students lead the way, and I think that that is something we're going to see more of. As a matter of fact, today I have a student presenting on AI and the tools that they need to be successful as they go out to become STEM educators at the K through 12 level. And so I think that, yes, there are constraints there, but I am more than confident that HBCUs will be able to show how they are infusing that into their curriculum and making strides ahead and reaching across to other units. The School of Ed is one school that works with every single other school and college on our campus. So we work very closely with our College of Science, Engineering, and Technology and making sure that we provide free workshops to P12 educators. And these were all ideas that came out of partnering with other HBCUs and other institutions for how to best impact not only the HBCU, but preparation at the P through 12 level. And so I think that going forward, I think we need to look at it as in a positive light of how beneficial accreditation can be to us and how we can tie accreditation to showing the strength and the necessity of HBCUs and contributing to a global diverse workforce.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wallace Alexander. You touched on so many great points in the close of our particular panel discussion and question. This particular conversation both ties in and unifies AI, which is not separate from accreditation. It's just simply the future. HBCUs that lead will define the next era of excellence in our higher education. And I would like to introduce Mr. Bill McIntyre, who will now give us our call to action. Thank you so much.
First off, I just want to say, wow, what a robust and rich conversation that we were having. I wanted to also say, if we can just give another round of applause, virtual applause, if we may, for all of our panelists. They were outstanding. So I want to say thank you. Outstanding job. As we close today's discussion, we encourage each of you to take actionable steps to advance responsibility in AI in our learning environments and active support in sustainability and success in the HBCUs. Whether that means implementing new tools, advocating for policy changes, building partnerships, or investing in educators or educational development. Your role in reshaping, reimagining the future of education starts now. Don't let this conversation stop here. Our call to action, we need to start to look at what are our top priorities? What does this look like at this point in time? What are some different things that we can do in AI that's common in our education? So we can start with things like teacher education and professional development. What does student AI literacy and digital responsibility look like? Also, taking a deep dive and setting clear AI policy, whether it's local or state, and then moving into some data practices, with best practices and safeguards for our data, and ethical, and then workforce development, because we could do all of this to a means to an end. And so hopefully at the end of this educational journey, we are advancing into the workforce, right? And so what does this look like in preparing to the workforce? So we cannot ban AI, but we can teach responsible AI. And so that looks like governance. It looks like AI transformation and learning, how educators are trained and better prepared, and then moving the needle for students. HBCUs must lead the way, whether that's innovation or integrity. And in closing, I just want to say, think about a couple of different questions that we may ask. Whether that's how we should govern AI on our campuses, what type of policies are needed for for HBCUs right now and in the future, and who needs to sit at the table in order to make those decisions. We talked about innovation, that's a tad bit, but we need to drill down on accountability and integrity, academic integrity, because that's key in advancing our cause. And then the challenges in social economic lines and barriers. And then finally, what is the alumni's role in supporting AI readiness at Lincoln University and beyond? That concludes our call to action. So I want to say thank you and turn this back over to you.
Thank you again, Mr. McIntyre. We really appreciate you for that call to action, so powerful and so profound on what it is that we should do next. In addition to this conversation, we have provided some AI in education recommendations of resources, such as a brief history of artificial intelligence, AI for educators, and 21 lessons for the 21st century. We'll have those up on the screen, but we can stay here in closing. I would now like to introduce Dr. Eric J. B. Coates, our president, graduating class of 88, Lincoln University Alumni Association. We welcome you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much. I must say, what a phenomenal job. And to celebrate Women's Month as the National Association president, I want to thank Dr. Carmen Lassane, Dr. Valerie Riggs, Dr. Marsha Koger, Camille Young, Dr. Danelle Wallace Alexander, and Diane Hinton. Your words of inspiration, your guidance, your intelligence, as well as your advisement was well taken. I have definitely made some notes as a superintendent of public instruction in Pennsylvania. Everything that you said regarding AI and other areas are very, very important. So again, on behalf of the National Alumni Association of the first degree granting HBCU, I want to say thank you so very, very much. I also want to ask you to please keep in mind, we will continue to have other series on education, specifically around women in education. I also want to share that we will also be recognizing men in education in the month of June. Also, I want to share that all of the information that was shared today will be available to everyone. But most importantly, I want to thank our program committee. There was a vision to highlight women in education. And I want to thank our program chair, Teresa Etienne Jefferson. I want to thank her program committee members, Bonnie Bowser, Ephraim Burgess, Tanea Davis, Tyler Jefferson, Damian Jones, Bill McIntyre, Justin Taylor, Audra Whitley. Thank you so, so very much. Your work and your inspiration today is shown in everything that we've witnessed. I want to thank everyone. Please continue to have a great day and enjoy the rest of your weekend. And thank you and take care.
Can I add something? Also, too, we always would appreciate support. So just continue to support us. I know you can join the Alumni Association, but also to have programs like this continue, we always can use financial support as well. Thank you.